In terms of the interview process, we've announced 11 very strong candidates. I'm going to be meeting with them probably right before, right after Labor Day, and to start bringing down the list to present to President Trump.
That was Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Squawk Box yesterday discussing the search for the next Fed chair. Joining us right now to talk about that and what's actually happening in the economy right now is Harvard Kennedy School professor Jason Furman. He served as Council of Economic Advisors chairman under President Obama. And Manhattan Institute senior fellow Allison Schrager, thank you both for being here today. I don't even know where you want to jump in on this, but we've been talking about Jackson Hole. We've been talking about the issues that the FOMC is facing right now. We've been talking about the search for a new Fed president or Fed chairman. Where does this all come down right now? Who wants to jump in first? Who wants to say what this moment in time means?
Look, I mean, I'm worried. There's only one thing I'm looking for in a Fed chair. You know, it'd be nice if they understand the economy. It'd be nice if they know how to manage. But the only important thing but the only really important thing to me is that they think the Fed should be independent. And I worry that the main thing the administration is looking for in the candidate is the exact opposite of that.
Look, by the way, we just had David on. We asked the same question repeatedly. How independent does this person need to be? Can you be independent? He effectively dodged the question and basically didn't even dodge it. He said, it should be political.
He said it's never been independent. It depends on which side you're on.
I mean, if you think Joe Biden was sitting there rooting for the Fed to raise interest rates by 75 basis points after 75 basis points, that's not what we wanted the Fed doing.
He may have expressed some dissatisfaction with that.
And we're lucky the Fed did what it did. The Fed's certainly being independent right now. The president would like them to lower interest rates. They're not. So to me, that's the one thing that matters. And it's sad that it's even become a debate and an open question.
It's been a long time of Fed bashing and Fed complaints. Maybe behind the scenes.
If presidents want to bash the Fed, that's fine with me. If they want to actually control it, that's when it becomes a problem.
If this becomes the litmus test, are you going to do what I say? And you think that's the case. Allison, how about you?
I mean, I really am also very worried about Fed independence, but I'm sympathetic to the idea that maybe it's not as independent as we think. I mean, one reason we suspect that Jay Powell waited so long to increase rates when inflation returned is that he was waiting for his reappointment. So I think there's always this dance going on. What worries me even more than the pressure to cut short-term rates is that whoever's going to be Fed chair is going to be under a lot of pressure to do like serious financial repression, even on the longer end of the curve. And I think that's when things are going to get really gnarly and potentially like sort of bring us back to some sort of Japan situation.
Wow.
Japan meaning deflationary.
Yeah. Or not deflationary. I think actually the pressure to lower long-term rates might actually ultimately be inflationary because it just sort of suggests, seigniorage. But I mean the low growth, very low interest rate sort of situation.
Jason, just where we stand right now, how much control does the Fed have? If the Fed actually were to cut the short end of rates, how much control do they have over the long end of things, which doesn't always go along with what the FOMC says anyway? It hasn't over the last couple of years.
I mean, look, they delivered that cut in September of 2024, and mortgage rates went up.
Yeah, right.
The problem we have right now is the big thing driving the economy is the tariffs, the immigration reduction, and then what's going on with companies like OpenAI that you were talking to before. And with all of that, that's driving interest rates up. That's driving inflation up. That's giving us a situation that the central bank can't get to a good answer. They can get to less bad answers, but the only good answer would be to change some of those policies.
Okay, David Zervos said that he thinks the Fed has gotten to a neutral balance sheet because it's down to just over $6 trillion from over $9 trillion. He thinks that inflation is okay, even if it's at 3%, not beyond that, and that he thinks real employment is 3.5%. Does that sound like if it's up to snuff in terms of how you see the economy, Allison?
Yeah, I think it's really hard to justify a rate cut, particularly with what's happening with the stock market right now. And it's said that inflation is still above target and unemployment isn't that low. So I think as well, when I'm getting concerned again that all these Fed nominees, potential nominees, are talking a lot about the balance sheet and the fact that a large balance sheet is desirable. I mean, I think that's debatable, but that to me is where I think there's going to be a lot of scope to start doing more sort of yield curve control, which is, I think, where things get really dangerous because, you know, you can always sort of argue about what the short-term rate is, but when we really start thinking about yield curve control, we're going into a really different territory that I think really can erode independence.
Okay, so why do you think Powell waited so long to do? You're giving Biden credit for not complaining about the rate increase. Why did it take so long? If I were Biden, I would have been begging him to raise rates so that I didn't, get 40-year highs in inflation.
Oh, he messed it up.
But not. That's not from any political pressure.
I don't think that was for political pressure.
Well, he wanted to keep rates low. He wanted to keep rates low for Biden's economy.
He thought the inflation would be transitory.
Okay.
I thought he was wrong in real time when he gave that Jackson Hole address in 2021. It was like a brief.
But we don't know if there was pressure to keep rates low.
What?
We don't know if there was pressure.
But what I give him a lot of credit for is when he recognized his error, he corrected it more quickly than anyone called for. Jason, no one thought they could raise rates as much as they did, and he did. And he had that courage.
I have a totally different question for you.
Okay.
No, I remember Joe would give you a hard time when you were in the Obama administration about Solyndra. I don't know if you remember that. You remember this. So I want to know what you think of the industrial policy. Some of the news we're learning even this morning that the administration is thinking of taking equity stakes in all of these companies, chip companies, that have taken money as part of the CHIPS Act.
Yeah, I mean, this administration's enthusiasm for involving itself in American businesses, who their CEOs should be.
But the strange bedfellows is, should you be saying, rah, 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 this is fabulous, we used to do this, and this is great? Or do you say the lesson of your own experience was that Joe was right the whole time?
He won't say that.
Joe is always right. Joe is always right.
I'm always on the right.
I think one should be very, very uncomfortable about industrial policy.
But were you uncomfortable then? That's what he would say. I'm channeling him.
We summed it up.
I thought that was small amounts of money for something highly speculative. When you're talking about a large amount of money for something very established, I think you have to be more nervous about it.
We were kidding off camera. I said, I like government policy when it's a Republican policy, or government industrial policy when it's Republican. You like it when it's Democrat.
That's not true. I don't like it generally.
But I'm just summing it up, sort of, because we wear different.
I sort of like markets, and roughly believe in
most
that.
Democrats don't, so that's good for you. That's
so
nice. Allison,
you're not
getting enough. You want to weigh in on this?
No, I mean, this is why I think you have to be careful. I'm an equal opportunity hater of industrial policy. I hate it when both of them do it. And you knew this was coming with the Biden administration when they started going to chip manufacturing. I think, like, sort of an explicit government stake is sort of, you flirt with that when you start sort of giving subsidies and start demanding, childcare and all these other sorts of benefits.
But my question is what I said to the CFO of OpenAI is there will be a day, I imagine, where the president could call up an OpenAI and say, look, we're subsidizing all the chips that you're operating on. We need a stake in you now, and you're just going to you're going to fork it over. I mean, that's how that's the slippery slope of all this.
Like the Godfather to the baker. It's like, there will come a time.
He is doing that with my university right now.